Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast. Experience support for confident business makers. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Rusty Shelton. Rusty is the founder and chairman of Zilker Media, senior marketing strategist at Forbes Books, and an active speaker to audiences around the world. He has written 3 acclaimed books, including his newest, The Authority Advantage: Building Thought Leadership Focused on Impact, Not Ego, which is co-authored by Adam Witty. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Rusty Shelton.
Thank you, Ed. Been looking forward to this.
So first off, Rusty, why do you do what you do?
Well, I'm super passionate about teaching, and in particular, teaching entrepreneurs and leaders how to make a bigger impact at scale. I find a lot of the best leaders in the world have kind of been conditioned and coached to just do it behind the scenes. And certainly you have to do that, right? You've got to make the impact on your team, on your clients, on your partners. But what we're seeing today is if that's all you're doing, it kind of limits your ability to build trust for your organization to reach an audience. And so I'm really passionate about showing leaders how to do this in a way that's really focused on impact, not ego.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me about your newest book, The Authority Advantage: Building Thought Leadership Focus on Impact, Not Ego.
Sure. Well, we know from a recent Gallup study, trust in institutions, in businesses, in nonprofits is at an all-time low, right? And so what I see from a lot of leaders is this, focus on leading with the logo or leading with the entity, if you will. And the problem with that is when you lead with your corporate logo or your institutional logo, your audience is skeptical immediately when they hear from that company. And so part of what we're really trying to do is grab leaders by the shoulders and sort of show them the urgency that if you are trying to communicate a message through your business, it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's going to fall on a skeptical audience versus if you, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a leader, whether you're an entrepreneur, if you're willing to come out alongside your corporate brand, right, and teach instead of pitch or sell, that message is going to go further, quicker, more effectively. And so it's kind of this idea, Ed, that the most effective leaders today understand that they need to be the messenger, not the message. In other words, if they've got something they want to communicate, if they are willing to do it in an authentic, mission-driven way, it's going to be much more effective. And so that's really what the book is focused on, is number one, showing the why and trying to clear out some of the head trash that servant leaders have around kind of an initial thought that thought leadership is about ego. And we're kind of showing them why it's much more about impact today and then how to do it.
I'd like you to react to the following. I've had people come up to me and having a podcast such as this, and people say to me, well, what can I do to become a thought leader? And my answer is, don't try to be a thought leader.
Love it. No, I completely agree with you. And I think one of the key pieces of that, Ed, is that's the perception a lot of leaders have is I've got to kind of play this thought leader or authority role. And actually what works is completely the opposite. So I always encourage leaders, be more of yourself, right? Bring your personality, bring your perspective. It's the only reason to follow you versus the hundreds or thousands of other people creating content in your space. So I think your advice to leaders is exactly right. Go out there focused on communicating, teaching, making an impact, and then bring some personality with it, and you'll get pretty far quickly.
I like to think also it's what I happen to be interested in. If others are interested in it, that's great too.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Right. And if you're passionate about it, if that's coming through clearly, then you're going to start to gather an audience around that, and you're going to have fun along the way.
What do you think about some of the stuff that we're seeing where there's been a focus away from what Milton Friedman wrote in 1970, which was that the primary focus of a business is to make a profit. That's what its only social responsibility. And to say, no, we have to have a social responsibility that's above and beyond, and we have to put our stakeholders, not necessarily our shareholders, first.
Well, I mean, I think that the nature of business certainly has changed dramatically, even since I started my first company, 13 years ago. I mean, it's just a very different environment. And I think that most of the changes have been good ones. And, certainly businesses need to make a profit, right? And I think one of the greatest forces for good on the planet is entrepreneurship. And so I'm absolutely wholeheartedly behind, businesses focusing on driving profits, but it's not the only thing, in my opinion, right? This is really about how do you take care of your team, how do you take care of your customers, but how do you take care of your community as well? And certainly it's a lot more fun when you have those things in mind as well. But if the business isn't focused on making a profit and isn't doing that consistently, then none of those other stakeholders benefit.
Well, the distinction I like to draw is that profit is the result of the business, not the purpose of the business. So, and I think if you live your purpose, you in theory will make a profit, or you won't. In which case, you really shouldn't be in business.
No, that's exactly right. And I think part of what we're trying to communicate in this book, Ed, is that to create a profit, right, and to do it in a way that is meaningful and provides a competitive advantage, leaders have to take a step forward. They've got to be willing to get more visible. I mean, I think you are a great example alongside Sage, right? So if somebody is hearing from Sage, their guard might be up. They might expect, okay, this is a company marketing something to me. When I hear from Ed on a podcast, he makes me laugh. He teaches me, the speed to trust is really different there. It also puts you in great position to build authentic peer-to-peer relationships, right? And so I think this is really, from my perspective, a real competitive advantage. And I know a lot of leaders listening to this might think, all right, Rusty, I haven't really jumped into LinkedIn. I haven't gotten active online. I find a lot of leaders think that they missed the boat on it or they can't catch up. And it's been my experience that leaders that do this, in most industries, you are still early to the game as much as you might not feel like you are. And if you can do it in a way that not only builds trust, but again, is authentic to who you are, is positioning you to talk about things that you're going to have fun with, you're going to enjoy it along the way.
And Rusty, we have an exit question we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
Yeah, I mean, the first person that comes to mind for me on this is my dad. So, my dad is somebody that came from pretty meager beginnings and, was top of his class coming out of Baylor Law School, built out a great career, teaches still down at Baylor Law School, but just taught me a lot along the way about work-life balance and how to take care of your family as you're building out a great career. And I'm doing my best to try to emulate that.
And lastly, Rusty, how can somebody contact you?
Sure. So, as you mentioned in the readout, I do quite a bit of speaking. So you can go to rustyshelton.com to learn a little bit more about workshops and training for leaders. Also, for your audience, if they want to get a free digital copy of our new book, they can go to theauthorityadvantagebook.com, fill out a little bit of information. We'll be happy to send you that.
All right. The book is The Authority Advantage, Building Thought Leadership Focused on Impact, Not Ego. The author is Rusty Shelton. Thanks so much for being a guest today on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thanks, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.